Yo, what is going on, everybody? Hope all is well and blessed. Welcome back to another video. Before I get started, I just want to say if you're enjoying this content, then please share it. If you don't, then please let me know why down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, then please hit that subscribe for more of the truth. All right, with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So in this video, I'm going to explain why I am a conservative. So in order for you to fully grasp why I believe what I believe, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of a backstory on myself and my relationship with politics. So throughout my childhood, up until the end of 2019, I could care less about the government, politics, or anything of that nature. The extent of my knowledge was the narrative of Democrats good and Republicans racist and bad. And the only reason why I knew this was because that's what majority of people around me would say. It was pretty much what was pushed in school, and that's all I was really exposed to. So yeah, I was pretty much indifferent to the political scene. I was very self-absorbed, solely focused on my world and my immediate sphere of influence. Then I felt that my voice didn't matter. I felt that I could make no real impact on my community, and felt that voting would be pointless as the federal and even local governments didn't really influence my day-to-day. I was clearly wrong. But anyway, it wasn't until I went to this program called Europe where that fire was actually kindled within me. I lived in this false reality that majority of people didn't really relate to me, and I felt that I was alone. The program not only empowered me to where I knew I could make a difference, but they also showed me a community that not only understood me, but shared in my pain. I then understood that I had a responsibility, not only as an American, but as a human being, to be aware of what was going on around me. I started to get more involved, but the lens that I was looking through was that of the false narrative, which took me down a crooked path at first. So what really opened up my eyes to the deceit and started the pull towards the conservative viewpoint was COVID. Actions just don't match words when it comes to COVID. This topic is huge and there's so much to say on this, but I'm just going to give you guys a couple points. So at the beginning of the lockdowns, when we barely knew anything about COVID, we couldn't gather more than like 6 people in a house at a time, or even in our backyards, or whatever the case was. But yet the left was not only allowing but supporting thousands and thousands and thousands of people gathering for protests. Now, I understand the emotion and that draw to protests. I mean, during the beginning, I was even out there. And when I was out there protesting, at the beginning of the protests, I actually saw two sides of them. On one side, I saw the compassion, a semblance of unity, and the cry for justice. But then on the other end, I also saw the hatred and the violence that was also being perpetrated. Then watching the mainstream media try to cover up the destruction that some of these protests were leaving in their wake was just nuts, as it was affecting all people. People were losing their businesses, their jobs, their livelihood, even lives. And these were supposed to be the people that we're protesting for. Yet the people, or not the people, but the companies that were mainly supporting these lockdowns and the protests, like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, gained more capital during this time. And 2020 was the year where the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, and the middle class just got punched in the gut. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like the next thing that I'm going to say, but another eye-opening experience for me was Trump. People called him a racist. I watched the takes. I watched the videos that went viral. And then I went back and watched his full speeches. So, like I said before, I was indifferent. So I really didn't have an opinion or any bias when it came to Trump. So I wanted to go back and see why people were saying what they were saying, because I was looking at both ends of the spectrum, and both sides were, well, one side was saying one thing and the other side was saying another. So I wanted to find out for myself. So I went back and I watched those videos, and I watched them all the way through. And then when you watch them all the way through and you listen to what he's saying, who he's addressing, who his audience is, you would understand that he's not saying anything racist at all. And a lot of the times, the things that you see on social media or what some of these left-leaning platforms put out, just straight lies. Straight lies. And it just makes people like me look like they're just defending Trump to the day I die, when I'm just standing on the side of truth. Now, if you went back and you watched these videos, remove your bias and just listen to the man and what he's saying and view it in its full context, you would come to the exact same conclusion. Now, one of the most blatant lies that I can point out right now that's pretty easy is the moment in Charlottesville where the mainstream media tried to say that Trump had called white nationalists very fine people. Kamala Harris even brought up this lie in her debate with Mike Pence. So here's what Kamala said.
On the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs, and Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the president of the...
Now, here's what Trump actually said.
Mr. President, are you putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane?
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. No, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats.
Now, if you guys remember, right after the debate between Biden and Trump, right before the elections, the media tried to spin a narrative that Trump had never denounced white supremacy. Now, I remember finding a video where it was like 5 minutes of clips of Trump just denouncing white supremacy over and over and over.
Have you ever heard this president say one negative thing about white supremacists? Have you ever heard it?
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke.
You wouldn't even condemn David Duke, for God's sake.
Over and over and over.
How many times do I have to reject? I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. From the time I'm 5 years old, I rejected them.
And over.
David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it. I don't like any group of hate. Hate groups are not for me.
And over and over.
You've got David Duke just a bigot, a racist.
Over and over again.
Almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by.
During the last 4 years of his presidency. And, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, he can, you know, people just write it, you know, he can just read anything. They'll write anything. You know, I'm not going to really believe that. I'm like, okay, well, clearly in that video you can see that Trump, out of his own mind, under the spur of the moment, denounces white supremacy right then and there. So you can't say that he's just reading off a script or anything like that. He's clearly denouncing it by his own volition. This could be its own topic of all the things that the man has said out of context. I mean, his rhetoric is out there. It can be easily mistaken, but that does not excuse the manipulation and the lies of the mainstream media. But anyway, so what started to pull me over more towards the conservative viewpoint and what eventually won me over were actually the conversations that I had with my uncle. My uncle, being a conservative, often challenged me on a lot of the ideals that I had. So we had many conversations on the divisive topics between left and right. So when my uncle would confront me on the ideals that I had, he wouldn't always just tell me I'm wrong about things, but he would actually start to ask me questions to get me thinking. And then this thinking led me to start deep diving into finding answers for myself. So the more I dug, the more I researched, the more lies that I was able to see through. And the deceit was just clear. I stand on the side of truth, and I believe that people need to have factual information in order to make rational decisions. So when I usually watch a conservative source, and I'm not talking about Fox News, or rather when I watch a source that just doesn't follow the narrative, they usually just give you the straight facts. Then the other side usually labels them as X, Y, and Z because they don't follow the narrative. The majority of mainstream media and social media lean left. It's very evident, especially with the current suppression of conservative platforms. Louder with Crowder is a main one. They're literally trying to take him off of YouTube, and he's like the biggest conservative channel on YouTube. Actually, I think just the biggest conservative channel, period, across all platforms. And the way that YouTube is trying to kick him off of their platform is just ridiculous. Straight lies. And you don't even see all the hoops and stuff that he has to jump through just to keep his channel up and running. It's ridiculous. The goal of these platforms, especially social media, is to feed you these short clips and snapshots of information as they bank on you either really not caring or relying on them for your information. Then the goal of the left is to simply pander to the emotions of what they deem the minority, which is constantly changing. I mean, who isn't a minority these days? But they hit you with a lot of doublespeak, blame all the problems on the other side, and then their actions never match up to the promises that they give you before they get elected. You are honestly being deceived by these politicians. And these politicians really don't run anything. They're just the puppets that they put in the face of the people so the people have someone to blame. But the people who are really funding their pockets, and it's not even just the heads of these major corporations, it's the real money that runs this world that is running the show. So that's a whole nother topic in itself too, and I'm not really well versed in it. There's a lot of information and a lot of stuff that I need to dig into before I just start talking about it, and I don't want to put anything out there that I don't really know. But just long story short, these politicians do not care about you. Their goal simply is to gain power and to control the masses. The Bible tells us to judge a tree by its fruit, or in other words, judge by actions. That's the key right there. Just judge the actions. It doesn't matter what somebody says. It doesn't matter all the nice things that they say and this, that, and the third. What are they actually doing, though? What are they doing? And if you just look at the policies, forget what the idea of what you think that person is. But if you just compare policies to policy, what's the effect of this policy? What is the effect of that policy on the people? Then you'll see who's really for you and who's not. There's a lot to unpack in this issue, and I plan on going over some of the major lies in detail in videos later on. So yes, I am a conservative, but I don't automatically write off any Democrat or jump behind to support any Republican simply because of the letter next to their name. During this awakening, I found the values that I myself hold, especially being a new Christian, and I believe that my conservative values can bring structure and order to a lot of the chaos that we see today in our society. However, I believe the problems are much deeper than political views, or whether capitalism or socialism is the solution. The problems of our people are much deeper than money or materials. Yes, they help mitigate external stressors, but our people are broken and they need true love and empowerment. I stand on the other side of this imaginary line, but our goal as the people is the same, to help our fellow man. We may not agree on the solutions, but understand we are on the same team and always have been. I encourage you guys to start doing your own research and get informed for yourself. It's your responsibility to educate yourself on these issues and to form your own opinion. Then to conservatives and people who just don't follow the narrative, you need to grow a backbone and start voicing your opinion. I'm going to repeat that. You need to grow a backbone and start voicing your opinion. Stop caring about what people think and the labels that they're going to try to put on you. I simply do not care, and neither should you. They are just words. And if you lose a friend over a political view, then they were never really your true friend. People need to be exposed to the other side of thinking. If you've seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix, then you will understand how people are put in these boxes with others who think just like them, and the lengths of manipulation that these platforms go to put people in these boxes and keep them there. One of the best examples is Google. I do not use Google. And after watching that documentary, you'll understand why. But no Google. I personally use DuckDuckGo. It's a lot harder to use, but hey, at least I know I'm not getting fed what they want me to see. So speak up and don't be afraid. Now, I heard this in another video. I like it, and so I'm going to use it. I'm not here to wake up sheep. I'm here to wake up lions. God bless.